Something stopped you today, and I need you to understand that the stopping was not accidental. In the middle of everything competing for your attention, in the middle of the scroll, and the noise and the thousand small demands that fill the hours of an ordinary day, something made you pause here. Not slow down, not glance, pause, fully, the way a person pauses when they hear their name spoken in a crowded room. That specific quality of arrested attention that comes not from curiosity, but from recognition. And the reason it felt like recognition is because it was. What reached you in this moment did not come through the algorithm. It did not come through chance. It came through a directive that was issued from a place so far above the mechanics of this platform that the distance between them is almost impossible to measure. And the directive was specific. It said your name. It said now. It said alone. If there are other people around you right now, something in you already knows that what is about to be spoken over your life is not meant to be received in public. It is not meant to be filtered through the reactions of others. What is coming toward you in this moment was sealed for you and only you, and it has been waiting for exactly this. Across the entire recorded history of spiritual encounter, across every tradition that has ever attempted to document the mechanics of how the divine communicates with human souls, one pattern appears with such consistency that it functions almost as a law. The most significant revelations, the ones that permanently alter the trajectory of a life, the ones that carry genuine transformative power rather than emotional stimulation, they do not come in crowds. They do not arrive in moments of noise and distraction and divided attention. Moses was alone at the burning bush. Elijah heard the still small voice only after the wind and the earthquake and the fire had all passed, and silence finally arrived. Muhammad received the first revelation in the solitude of a cave. The Buddha sat beneath a tree by himself. Paul was alone on the road to Damascus when the light stopped him. And the reason solitude is the consistent condition for genuine divine encounter is not coincidence or cultural preference. It is architecture. The frequency at which the divine communicates requires a receiver that is not fragmented across multiple inputs. What is being transmitted to you right now operates at a level that noise cannot penetrate and distraction cannot process, and the presence of other people's energy cannot decode. This is why you were called here alone. And now I want you to bring your attention inward for a moment, because what I am about to say is going to connect directly to something that happened in your recent life, something you may not have recognized as significant at the time. Think about a moment, not far back, where you made a choice to get quiet when everything around you was pushing you toward reaction. Maybe someone said something about you that was not true, and instead of defending yourself publicly, you went still. Maybe there was a situation where everyone around you was sharing opinions, taking sides, performing certainty, and something in you refused to join the noise, even though your silence made you look uncertain or uninvolved. Maybe you chose to sit with a difficult truth about your own life, rather than distract yourself from it, the way the world had made so many convenient distractions available. That choice to go quiet, to separate yourself from the noise even briefly, even imperfectly, was not a small thing. It was a demonstration of a capacity that most people in your life do not possess. And it was registered. The ability to choose silence in a world engineered for constant stimulation is one of the rarest and most spiritually significant forms of discipline that exists. And what you demonstrated in that moment is exactly why this message found you. Now I need to tell you something about the nature of the attention that has been on you, because understanding it will reframe your entire experience the past several years. You have been watched, and the watching intensified specifically in the moments when you chose solitude over performance, when you turned away from noise towards something quieter and more honest inside yourself. The dark forces that operate through distraction, through the machinery of constant stimulation, through the cultural addiction to external validation and public performance, they noticed you pulling away. Every time you chose to sit alone with your own thoughts, rather than fill the silence with noise, it represented a failure of their most reliable mechanism, Distraction is the primary tool of spiritual suppression, and a soul that voluntarily separates from it is a soul that becomes increasingly difficult to control. This is why there have been periods in your life where the pull back toward noise felt almost irresistible, where the silence felt unbearable rather than sacred, where you were flooded with reasons to stay connected, stay distracted, stay visible, stay performing. That pull was not natural restlessness. It was a targeted attempt to prevent you from developing the very capacity that makes you dangerous to every force that benefits from human unconsciousness. And the divine has been watching for the opposite reason, waiting for the soul that could finally hold the quiet long enough to hear what was being spoken into it. Let me walk through the specific moments that were recorded, because you deserve to know that what you endured in your private spaces was witnessed, and it was not random. There was a season where you went through something significant entirely alone, where the weight of it was heavy enough that most people would have needed an audience for their suffering, would have needed to broadcast it, perform it, receive validation for surviving it, and you carried it in silence. There was a time where you were given access to information about someone, information that would have given you social currency if you had shared it, and you kept it. Not because you lacked the opportunity, but because something in you recognized that not every truth belongs in public circulation. There was a night where the silence felt too large, and you reached for your phone, and then put it back down and sat with yourself instead. And that small act of choosing presence over distraction cost you more than anyone watching from the outside could have understood. There was a relationship where you chose not to tell your version of the story, even when the other person was telling theirs loudly and publicly, because you understood instinctively that some things are corrupted by being exposed before they are fully processed. Each of these was a test of whether you could hold sacred space, and each one you passed. There is a classification in the architecture of divine intelligence for souls who have developed what the ancient traditions called the capacity for holy withdrawal. It is not the same as isolation. It is not the same as avoidance. It is the specific, cultivated ability to step out of the collective noise voluntarily and enter a quality of inner silence that becomes a receiving instrument for frequencies that cannot be heard in any other state. This classification is extraordinarily rare because the world is specifically designed to make it almost impossible to develop. The systems of modern human experience, the economics of attention, the social architecture of belonging, the psychological pressure of visibility, all of it conspires to ensure that the average soul never spends enough time in genuine silence to discover what lives in it. The higher beings responsible for identifying and activating souls with this capacity have been observing your relationship with solitude across the full length of your development. They have noted every time you chose the quiet, every time you resisted the pull toward noise, every time you sat with something difficult inside yourself rather than exporting it into a public performance of emotion. And they have classified you as one of the rare ones, a soul whose inner silence has become deep enough and stable enough to receive a transmission that cannot be delivered any other way. And now I want to tell you what happened in the divine realm the moment you chose, again, to be alone with this. Because it was not a small moment, even though it may have felt like simply pressing play on a video. When you separated yourself from the noise, when you created the conditions, intentionally or instinctively, that allowed you to be present with this message without the filter of other people's energy and opinions surrounding you. Something was registered at a level of consciousness that does not measure human behavior by its scale, but by its quality. The archangels assigned to the domain of revelation, those ancient intelligences whose specific function is to identify the moments when a human soul has created the conditions for genuine divine communication. They witness the quality of your attention. They witness the stillness you brought. They witness the part of you that knew before the first word was spoken that this was different, that this required a different quality of presence than the ordinary consumption of content. And in the language that exists beyond sound, they ratified what you are doing as a genuine act of spiritual preparation. And when something is ratified at that level, it does not simply pass as a nice moment. It activates a response from the highest levels of the creative intelligence that governs all of this. A response that has been waiting for exactly the conditions you just created. Thank you for listening. If this message resonated with you, I hope you'll consider following along for more. And so the decree has been issued. Not tomorrow, not when your circumstances are quieter or your mind is steadier or your faith is stronger, but now, in this moment, in the quality of attention you have brought to this space. Because a decree in divine law does not wait for perfect conditions. It moves when a soul has demonstrated the specific readiness that the decree requires, and you have demonstrated it. The universe, which has been watching your relationship with silence develop across seasons of your life, has determined that the preparation is complete. What is being activated in you right now is not a new addition to who you are. It is the unlocking of something that was always present, but required this specific quality of inner stillness to fully open. The part of you that has always known there was something more, something waiting, something that could not be accessed through noise or performance, or the approval of other people, that part of you is now being given full authorization to operate. The decree carries with it a specific promise. It says that the solitude you have chosen, which has sometimes felt like loneliness, which has sometimes felt like exclusion, which has sometimes felt like the universe withholding from you what it seemed to give freely to others, was never punishment. It was preparation. And what it was preparing you for is exactly what is being opened in you right now. So let me tell you who you are, because you have been living in a partial understanding of your own nature, and that gap has shaped everything. The loneliness, the sense of not quite fitting, the feeling that you were built for something you could not name, the way silence has always felt both unbearable and more honest than most of the noise available to fill it. You are an ancient soul, which means the part of you that seeks the quiet is not a personality preference or an introversion trait. It is the memory of a consciousness that has existed long enough to know that the most important things are never found in noise. You are a receiver, which is a specific kind of celestial function assigned only to souls whose inner silence has developed the depth and stability required to carry transmissions that cannot be entrusted to minds still fragmented by constant stimulation. You are a chosen one in the most precise sense of that term. Chosen not for performance, but for reception, not to be seen, but to hear, not to speak into the noise, but to bring back from the silence what the noise will never be able to generate on its own. The solitude you have always carried, that quality of aloneness that has followed you, even in crowded rooms, was never a flaw. It was the signature of your function, and now that your identity has been confirmed and the activation has been issued, the mission becomes specific. You were not built for the noise. You were not sent here to compete for attention in systems designed to reward performance and punish depth. Your mission is to be a keeper of sacred space, which means in practical terms that you create, protect, and inhabit the quality of silence in which genuine things can be received and genuine transformation can occur. This means you stop apologizing for the part of you that needs to withdraw. You stop treating your requirement for solitude as a social deficit that needs to be managed or explained. You stop allowing the pace and volume of the world around you to set the standard for what your inner life should look like. Your mission is to go deep where others go wide, to go still where others go loud, to return again and again to the inner silence that is not emptiness, but the fullest and most alive state available to a human soul. And from that silence, you will bring things back insights, clarity, a quality of presence, a kind of peace that the people around you do not know how to access on their own, but will feel the moment you carry it into the room. Your solitude is not withdrawal from the world. It is the place where you receive what the world most desperately needs. And because the mission is genuine, the support is already moving. Begin to notice what has been shifting in your life around the theme of space and silence and the right conditions for your actual flourishing. The situations that were demanding a version of you that required constant noise and constant performance and constant visibility are losing their grip. The relationships that could only exist in the shallow register of surface interaction are naturally falling away, not dramatically but consistently, creating room for connections of genuine depth. Opportunities are beginning to appear that are aligned with the quieter, deeper version of your function rather than the performed, public version the world has been trying to pull you toward. Your rest is becoming more restorative because the spiritual work of constant resistance to noise is beginning to lift as you step more fully into the identity of someone who's authorized to require silence. Your mind is developing a clarity that was not available when it was fragmented across too many inputs. And that clarity is beginning to produce insights and directions and solutions that the noisy version of your life could not have generated. These shifts are not coincidence. They are the material expression of a divine support system reorganizing itself around a soul whose mission has been confirmed and whose preparation is complete. And the silence you carry does not stay contained within your own experience. This is what I need you to understand about the ripple effect of what you are and what you do. When a soul that has developed genuine inner stillness moves through the world, something happens to the people in proximity to it that cannot be manufactured through any technique or method or spiritual practice. They get quieter, not because you tell them to, but because something in your frequency gives them permission to stop performing, to stop filling every silence with noise, to sit for a moment with themselves in a way that the relentless pace of their ordinary life never allows. Some of the people who spend time with you will go home and sit in silence for the first time in years, not knowing why the impulse came. Some of them will make a decision they had been avoiding, a decision that required the quiet to finally hear clearly. Some of them will begin to question the noise in their own lives, the constant stimulation, the addiction to distraction, the performance of being busy, and that questioning will eventually lead them to the same kind of inner space that you have been developing. You will not see most of this, but you are causing it simply by being what you are, a soul that has learned to be genuinely still in a world that has forgotten how, and you are not the only one. Across this world right now, there are thousands of souls who carry the same quality of inner silence you carry, who have developed through the same kind of invisible preparation, who have felt the same specific loneliness of being built for depth in a world that rewards performance. They are in every country, every language, every tradition, and outside of every tradition. They have spent years not understanding why they needed the quiet more than others, why the noise of ordinary social life left them feeling more depleted than nourished, why the most alive they ever felt was in moments of complete solitude when something in the silence seemed to speak. And they are receiving their activations right now, in this season, through experiences that mirror the one you are having in this moment. As each of them steps into the full understanding of their function, as each of them stops apologizing for the silence they carry and starts treating it as the sacred instrument it is, the collective field of human consciousness begins to shift. The quality of genuine stillness available to humanity increases. The transmissions that can only be received in silence become more accessible. And the world, which is desperately in need of what silence produces, begins to receive it through the souls who are built to carry it.